Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the July event of the 2024 SalesPad webinar series. My name is Mike Radin. I'm a senior sales engineer here at Cavallo. It's hard to believe we're already kicking off the second half of the year. To view the remaining webinars for the year, I encourage you to visit our events page at www.cavallo.com/events-schedule. You'll be able to register for every webinar and view recordings of our past webinars from this page. For today's webinar, the format will be a 40-minute presentation followed by Q&A. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer all the questions at the end. Lastly, this is a reminder that today's webinar is being recorded. Like I mentioned, it'll be available up on our events page after the session today. We are excited to have Alyssa Strand, SalesPad Product Manager from Cavallo, with us today. Alyssa is going to share updates on what we've accomplished in the first half of the year and the value that it brings all to you. Then she'll dive into the roadmap to cover all the plans we have for the rest of the year. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Alyssa to introduce herself and kick us off.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Hello and welcome, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to join our webinar. My name is Alyssa Strand, and I am the Product Manager for SalesPad here at Cavallo. So today, like Mike said, I'll be giving an overview of the plethora of new features that we've introduced since last year's panels, which is Cavallo's user conference. This also has a bit of a SalesPad tips and tricks lean because I'll be covering big new features as well as some handy new configuration options and helpful new abilities. Then I'll give you a rundown of what we're working on currently, and we'll highlight what we have planned for the rest of the year. So there is a lot here. I'm going to be talking pretty fast to fit all of this in. We do plan to provide a copy of the slide deck to everyone because I have configuration notes and documentation links in my speaker notes for you. So to start off, here is a bit about me. So I've been with Cavallo for 7 years now as a developer for the first 5, and I've been on the product side for the past 2.5 years. So my role as SalesPad product manager involves investigating and architecting new features for the SalesPad applications, prioritizing our backlog and assigning work to our development sprints, and also working with people on custom requests to make sure that we're developing the best solution for your needs. So I love reading, especially in the sci-fi and fantasy genres. I also play a lot of video games, also heavily in those areas. And my husband and I love to go on adventures and explore new places, and we have 3 adorable fur babies. So without further ado, let's get into all of our big new features from the past year. So to start it off, the HubSpot integration is an exciting new connector between SalesPad and HubSpot. So for this, we've really honed in on the ERP being the source of truth for this data syncing. So a big focus of this is automatically syncing company and contact information between both systems. So this reduces data entry time and keeps the ERP and CRM in sync. So you can create customers and contacts in either system and have them automatically be created in the other. And then you can maintain them in SalesPad and have those updates get pushed automatically out to HubSpot. You can choose whether HubSpot companies come in as full customers, or you can start them as SalesPad prospects. And then once you convert that prospect into a customer in SalesPad, it keeps the link so that future updates stay hooked up to the same HubSpot company and contacts. For those already using HubSpot, you can set up matching rules to link your existing HubSpot companies to existing customers and prospects in SalesPad. And contacts are automatically included whenever customers and prospects are being created and updated. Product level updates are also pushed out to HubSpot, so this includes creation and updates. So this will keep your marketing SKU lists in the CRM up to date with their latest changes in the ERP. Sales documents are also pushed out to HubSpot, but this is a one-time sync. So the intention here is for sales transaction history in the CRM. So this targets sales documents that are in a particular configured workflow queue. So that should be set up as late as possible in workflow when the documents are finalized so that that final version is what is going out to the CRM for visibility. And all of this lives in Automation Agent. So you configure all of your matching rules for how to pair up the entities, your mapping rules for which fields correspond, and filtering rules for which data syncs. and then you automate the syncing on particular schedules based on your business needs. This is licensed as an add-on for SalesPad, so if you would like more information or to see a demo, definitely reach out to your account executive. The next big item is Square payment links. So we are just wrapping up development on this now, and it should be included in our next SalesPad release. What this does is make it possible to generate a payment link and send it to your customer so that they can enter their own card information on their own time into Square's secure online interface. So in SalesPad, what you can do is create the Square payment link for a sales order. You can use smart printing to then email that link out to the customer. They can pay online using Square's secure web interface. And then Automation Agent will automatically retrieve the paid payment link information and use that to create the payment transaction in SalesPad and GP. You can also cancel payment links if needed. All of these actions are available as plugins in sales document entry, as well as some particular nestings within the payment entry window that you can see here, so that users can trigger them manually. But those plugins can also be hooked up in workflow so that they can occur automatically as part of your order process. The next big area we've been enhancing is Import Manager. So we have some new import options around serial items, lot items, and customers. There is a new purchase receipt inventory serial num import, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's all about receiving serial tracked items. So you can take a spreadsheet that has a ton of serial items that need to be received and just import that to automatically create those receipts. This can be used for creating receipts against pending purchase orders. You can also receive inventory for a vendor that's not tied to a particular PO, and you can receive in-transit transfers using this import. You can also set serial item user-defined fields as part of the import process for all of those receipt types. So you can bring in all of the information that you need for those serial items. You can run the import for this in Import Manager per usual, but we also added an easy serial item receipt import plugin to the core receiving screen so that you can give users access to this without needing to give them access to the full Import Manager functionality. We've also updated the existing inventory adjustment import so that this now allows updating serial item user fields. So this way, when you're adjusting serial items into the system, you can set their user field values as part of this process without needing to go through any extra steps. Our existing inventory serial num import now also allows updating serial item user fields en masse. So because we've made it easy to import serial items on receipts and adjustments and have particular user fields set, if you happen to typo one of those values, then you would need an easy way to go in and fix those potential mistakes. And this can also just be used for mass updates. So if you have a process where serial items go through repair process and they have a user field that needs to be updated to say that they were new, but now they're refurbished, you can use the serial item import for that as well. We also have a new inventory lot num import. So this is for pretty much the same use cases as the inventory serial num import, but it's all about the lot items as opposed to serial items. So lot items also have lot attributes and the manufacturing date and the expiration date. So those can also be set as part of this import. Outside of item level updates, we also have a new customer import. So this will let you mass create customers and addresses. You can also mass update existing customers and addresses, and you can add new addresses to existing customers. So this is really helpful for first-time data setup if you're new to GP, but it also helps with migrating data between multiple systems. So if you use a CRM that SalesPad doesn't integrate with, you can now more easily bring those customers and contacts into SalesPad and GP. And the last new item related to the Import Manager functionality is a new copy button. So this lets you create a new import definition that matches an existing one, and then you can make adjustments as needed based on your individual import use cases. In Automation Agent, we have a couple new jobs that are available, and we've also drastically expanded one of the existing jobs. So the first one here is a new System User Quick Report email job. So this lets you configure one or more quick reports that should be attached to an email and sent to one or more internal users. So this also comes with a new System User email template for configuring what the email should say, and it makes it easy to automatically send particular reports to certain users on a set schedule. So you could send weekly sales reports to your sales reps or daily inventory reports to your warehouse managers, really any reports that should go out to the same people on a set schedule. The Remove Sales Batch Holds job has been updated to offer some new configuration options. So you can now select one or more target workflow queues for this processing. You can choose whether those sales documents should be forwarded after their holds have been removed, and whether that forwarding should trigger workflow plugins. You can set your own audit message for when holds are removed. You can set a failure batch in case any errors occur, and you can select more than one type of hold to be removed now. There's also a new script hook that allows canceling the hold removal so that you can add custom logic to determine whether the hold should actually be removed as part of this processing. So this just makes this much more flexible for various hold removal scenarios. And then we also have a new transfer quote to order job. So this is very similar to the existing transfer order to invoice job. You can see the various configuration options here in the screenshot. But you configure a target quote queue, and those quotes will automatically be converted into orders on the configured schedule. So this just follows base GP setup rules in terms of figuring out what type of order to create based on which type of quote is being converted. And you just need to move those quotes into that processing queue whenever they're finalized, and then this job will pick them up and they'll automatically turn into orders. Another area that we are constantly enhancing is EDI. So we have a few new documents, as well as some enhancements to our general setup for this. So we now support the outbound 204 for the carrier load tender. This lets you send sales order shipment information to a shipping carrier, and that is paired with the inbound 214 for the carrier status messages, which lets you receive the shipment updates from the carrier, and those will be audited to the sales order. You can also now map one trading partner to multiple SalesPad GP customers. So if the same trading partner has multiple ship-tos, which are set up as individual customers in SalesPad and GP, they can now be configured under the same trading partner setup in SalesPad. Previously, you would need to configure one trading partner for each of the customers, which just really complicated the setup. So we've simplified this so that everything for the actual trading partner can be shared under one configuration. So this involves a couple different configuration elements. You can see a couple of them in the screenshots here. The first portion is in the business object mapping. There's a new customer matchable fields column. So you set which field on the EDI document indicates the ship to. And then in the customers tab that you can see here on the left, you match the possible values for that field to their corresponding customers. And then in the addresses tab that you can see here on the right, you would configure all of the possible addresses that can be matched. And then the last topic here is around intercompany EDI. So EDI can now be used for internal company communications that do not require SPS. A primary use case for this is when one internal company has to send a purchase order to another internal company, who then turns that into a sales order, they fulfill it, they ship it back to the first company. So you can now set up separate SFTP processing folders for EDI processing that doesn't require SPS. We do still recommend routing through SPS for any EDI communications with external companies. They provide a shared repository for both parties and various services that are imperative for those external communications. But now we have this simpler option so that you can more easily use our EDI solution for internal company communications. Another area we've expanded a bit here is manufacturing. So we have some new visibility options. In manufacturing order entry and manufacturing BOM entry, we now have quick reports tabs. So you can configure one or more quick reports to show for the manufacturing order or the MBOM. Manufacturing BOM entry now has a direct link to the primary routing. So this is a read-only field that has a hyperlink to launch the routing entry for the primary routing that's assigned to that BOM. Any changes for MBOM routing assignments do still need to be made in GP at this time, but now there's an easy way to just launch the primary routing in SalesPad for review or any updating that needs to happen. And the last one here, which you can see being demonstrated in the fun GIF, is our routing sequences dockable plugin. So this is in manufacturing routing entry, and this lets you see all of the sequences in the current routing. You can click them in that grid to quickly jump between them to make it easier to edit across all of these different sequences that are part of this routing. You can even drag and drop them to resequence them, and you can easily add a new sequence to the end of the current sequences for this routing. So this makes routing sequence management simpler and provides some handy resequencing capabilities that GP does not offer. And another big core area we've improved recently is our visibility into inventory allocations. So we already had this pop up in the inventory lookup that lets you see allocations for a specific item, but it only showed sales allocations and more recently in-transit transfer allocations. But there are many other types of allocations in GP, so the total number that you would see in the pop-up wouldn't necessarily match what you would see for the overall allocations for that item in that site. So we've now added visibility for these other types of allocations to help these numbers match up better. We have a new assemblies tab, so you can see the distribution BOM assemblies that have this item allocated as a component. We have a manufacturing orders tab so that you can see the MOs that have this item allocated as a component. And this tab is only visible if you actually have the manufacturing module installed. You can also see the inventory allocations. So this will let you see the site transfers and adjustments that are taking this item out of its current site. This does not include adjustments into the system because those don't affect inventory, so they don't actually reserve allocations. And then we have a miscellaneous tab for really everything else. So there are a variety of other allocation types that GP has that SalesPad just doesn't integrate with. So some of the possible options you could see here are customer invoices, depot management, purchase order returns, RTVs, and service call transfers. But that's not an exhaustive list. There are others that we allow as well. So some basic information is displayed to provide allocation visibility, but you'll notice that there aren't any document hyperlinks in the grid because they can't be launched in SalesPad. But overall, we'll provide much better inventory allocation visibility so that you can see where all of these different allocations are being assigned. And then we have a bunch of other features, which I wanted to mention at least quickly, but just other things that might be helpful for you, other quicker things that we've introduced lately that we wanted to mention. So at the top of the list here, you can now email generated quick reports from the quick reports screen and tabs. So this lets users quickly and easily email quick reports to other SalesPad desktop users or to specific email addresses. And there's a new quick report email template to structure the content of that email. RMA entry now supports resources, so you can attach any necessary files as resources that stay connected to that RMA. RMA entry also now has an RMA email plugin. So a major use case here is for RMA approvals. You configure an RMA email template and which users should receive the email. And then when a user is done creating a new RMA in SalesPad, they can trigger the plugin that will send the RMA's information to those configured review users with any resources attached for review. Sales document holds can now be displayed in the sales entry banner. So this will list any applied holds in the yellow banner at the top of sales entry for easy visibility. So this is the same place where we show if the document's currently locked by someone else or if it's read-only for some particular reason. So it really makes holds much more obvious. Recurring sales definitions now support user-defined fields. So this is available at the header and the line level. And the other nice thing is that if you create sales documents off of those recurring sales definitions, if you have user-defined fields that have the same field name at the header level or the line level, it will automatically copy those fields down when it generates the sales document and its sales lines. So if you have particular special information that you want to set on recurring sales definitions and their lines, or have that copied down to the generated sales documents and lines, you can now do that. You can now map PasteJet ship codes to sales order shipping methods. So this lets you populate the ship code in PasteJet automatically based on the sales order shipping method. And if you change the ship code in PasteJet, you can have that automatically update the sales order shipping method to match. So there are a couple settings to enable here, and you also have to set up that mapping for which SalesPad shipping methods correspond to which PasteJet ship codes. But then it will just update it for you automatically so that the user has less information they need to set whenever they are coordinating those shipments. Quick reports can now show the report name in the tab name. So there are a couple different options to set up here, some in securities and some are on the individual quick reports. But this makes it so that if you open multiple tabs for the same sales order report, for example, and filter each tab to a different customer, you can have each tab name display the report name as well as which customer it's currently filtered to. So it makes it a lot easier if you have all of these tabs open for different reports to tell which reports you're looking at and what you were filtered to for each of those. Purchase order search now offers a print option. So this lets you print or email multiple POs at once, which will also release them as appropriate. Hyperlink user fields can now be triggered from grids, so you can launch those links directly from a grid instead of needing to launch the document, find the field, and click on the link. Sales Monitor has some new group and sort options. So there is a particular dropdown that you'll see toward the top right of Sales Monitor, and there are particular options that will sort the documents in the right grid based on certain criteria. So there's a batch plus doc ID option that will pretty much match the order that the queues are shown in that tree list on the left, so that all the documents you're seeing on the right match the exact queue order that you're seeing on the left. The batch option will group up batches that have the same names across multiple doc IDs and then sort by batch name. And the workflow sequence plus batch option will group batches that have the same names across multiple doc IDs again and sort by workflow sequence instead. So those are commonly used if you have like a ready for pick batch that is the same workflow queue name, but it's across multiple different doc IDs for your process. That will consolidate all of those into one grouping. So you see all of them together in that grid on the right. And there's also an option for none. So none will just free up the grid so that you can create your own groups and sorting and really tailor Sales Monitor to exactly how you want to see those documents. And then last but not least for our honorable mentions, we have the new PasteJet Void Pending Shipment plugin. So the existing void shipment syncing that we had set up focus on shipments that were completed in PasteJet before they were voided. But this new plugin can cancel the PasteJet shipment while it's still in progress. And this can also be used to cancel the PasteJet shipment in SalesPad if someone already voided it in PasteJet before it was completed. All right, so then some new inventory manager features across the last year really focus on new visibility options in the mobile application. So the first one is a new security for whether the app's Remember Me option remembers both the username and the password or just the username. So this helps provide greater security so that a mobile device can't just be left lying around and then someone else can just log into it because it remembered the password. We also have a new setting for displaying expiration dates in lot lookups. So this provides visibility of the expiration dates whenever you're scrolling through the lot lists, which you can see in the screenshot here on the left. So there's an existing setting for whether the receive date shows. So you can enable both, and then it will show the date received, and below that, the expiration date. There's also a new setting for displaying an additional field in sales document lookups. So you can select an extra sales document level core field or user-defined field that you want to see in the sales document lookups. So the example here shows the customer number being visible. So this makes it easier to find documents for various sales process modules like picking, packing, and returns. There's also a new security to enable package deletion in picking and packing. So if a user accidentally creates an extra package, or if they messed up a package and they want to start it over, they can now delete it within the app. So they would just need to tap the info icon on the package number cell and choose to delete the package. And there is also a new security override for the picking lookup batch. So this was previously just controlled by a setting, which is still the default globally. But now you can set up individual batches at the security group level so that you can override and set up different target picking batches for these different user groups. We also have some new features on the Ship Center side. So we have some new shipping and packing options, as well as the REST API updates being the big items here. So these new packing flexibility options you can see in the screenshot, kind of in that middle section of what's going on in the packing pop-up. There is a variety, actually, of options that tie to what you can see here. So there's a new security that will allow users to set the quantity in U of M before they send a line item to a package, instead of just automatically assigning the full quantity. So this makes it much easier to split items up into multiple packages. There's also a security that allows users to pack items in any allowed U of M for the given item. Previously, Ship Center only allowed packing in the base U of M, but now, instead of always being restricted to eaches, you could pack in cases. You can also now specify whether the default packing quantity is 1 or the remaining quantity to pick. So in the screenshot that you can see here, the sales line I have selected on the left has 4 quantity remaining to be packed. So the configuration would control what that quantity to pack field in the middle starts with, whether that's 4 because it's the rest of what I need to pack for the line, or whether it starts as 1 because maybe my process is to pack all of those individually anyways. And there's also a new global setting for whether you can pack at the kit header level instead of needing to pack all of the individual components. So it makes it much faster to go through and just pack each kit just once, instead of needing to go through and pack all of those components. So all of these options together make it a lot easier to tailor Ship Center to your specific packing processes. The next big update is the REST APIs for UPS and FedEx. So UPS and FedEx both shifted to use new REST API services. Ship Center integrates with those carriers via their APIs. So because they shift, we also have to shift to use those new APIs. If you have not yet upgraded Ship Center and updated your carrier configuration to work with the new REST APIs, now is definitely the time. Both of the carriers delayed their cutover to provide some extra time to switch, but they're both in August. So UPS's new date is August 5th, and FedEx's new date is August 31st. Always some potential for them to push those back again at this point. But after those dates, whenever they end up being finalized, the ability to ship via these carriers in Ship Center and to validate addresses in SalesPad will just stop working. So it's very important to upgrade to the new REST API configuration. We also now support FedEx One Rate. So this is a particular flat rate shipping option provided by FedEx that lets you ship packages that are under 50 pounds and envelopes that are under 10 pounds anywhere within the US. So that was a big request from a variety of customers, so we have added that support. We also support UPS paperless invoicing. So this is a service provided by UPS that automatically uses electronic commercial invoices for international shipments. They also imposed a $1 per shipment surcharge for using paper documents, so more of an impetus to get on this electronic handling. It's something you really just configure within the UPS portal, but then it will just work whenever you process an applicable shipment in ShipCenter. So this was actually already supported with our previous UPS API, and as of the listed version, it will also work with the UPS REST API. And finally, for ShipCenter, multiple workflow queues can now be assigned to the same shipping source. So instead of configuring separate shipping sources for each workflow queue, these can now be combined. So it makes it much easier for packers to find orders in the shipping monitor. Instead of needing to switch between a bunch of different shipping sources, you can really tailor it down so that they can much more easily find those orders that are ready for packing and shipping. And then we'll get into some SalesPad tips and tricks. So this slide focuses on our new support for conditional formatting. So this makes it possible to set up special formatting for cells based on defined rules. There are many different options available, and they differ based on the column type. So text fields have different conditional formatting options compared to dates and numeric fields. This affects the majority of the grids in the application, and it uses the base Dev Express capabilities. So some examples of what you could do with this. In sales entry, you could highlight sales lines that have backordered quantity. You could assign color formatting for sales lines based on their different warehouses. You could use gradients to flag lines based on their margin percent. In inventory lookup, you could highlight items with low available quantity, both in the items grid and in the warehouse availability grid. So all of these rules are saved to the grid layout, and then you can share that to other users and groups within layout maintenance. So there's really a world of possibilities here, a bunch of different visibility options that you can add to really tailor the data and highlight what is important for you. And then a few other tips and tricks. We've got some other grid options and keyboard shortcuts. So grids now have group options so that you can quickly expand all groups, collapse all groups, and set whether groups should automatically expand whenever they're added to the grid. The current functionality, whenever you add a new group to the grid, it automatically collapses everything. So if you would rather it start with everything expanded, you can now set that. There are also some hotkeys here, so you can do Control and MP to expand all groups, and Control and MO to collapse all groups. So to get into these, you just click the grid's orange triangle drop-down at the top left, and there is a new Group Options submenu that has these options. Quick Reports have a new configuration option for allowing row multi-selection. So this lets you shift-click and control-click to select multiple rows in the grid. And then we have new shortcuts as well for copying data out of Quick Reports. So Control-C would already copy what you had in your currently selected cell. But now if you have multiple rows selected, it will copy all of the data in all of those rows. And if you use Control and CR, that will copy all of the data for the single focused row that you have. So these make it a lot easier to copy information out of Quick Reports and into other spreadsheets or wherever else you'd like to see that data. And we also have a new Alt-P shortcut that lets you trigger the print functionality on applicable screens. So this applies to really any screen that has a print button. You now have a quick shortcut to be able to trigger that printing functionality. All right, so let's get into what we're working on currently and what's coming up next. So currently we are expanding our integration with Square to provide some new payment processing options. Payment links we covered in an earlier slide. That should be in our next release of SalesPad. And we're also currently integrating SalesPad Mobile with Square's mobile payment readers, which will let users take payments for orders in SalesPad Mobile with Square's convenient card reader devices. So we'll support both the older reader that connects via USB or Lightning port and accepts card swiping, as well as the new reader that connects via Bluetooth and accepts the card tap and chip insert. So we're aiming to have that ready toward the end of August. And for the rest of the year, we are focusing on Inventory Manager. So a big concept here is directed picking. This will be the next bit that we are focusing on. So this will let you configure how documents should be prioritized when picking. It'll let you set up a pick path based on your bins, and you can also set up priorities for serials and lots to respect FIFO or FIFO or any other rules you have around how those items should be picked. So you can choose whether that controls the lookup sorting, so how you're seeing all of those items whenever you go into a lookup to find an order or an item. You could also have it just automatically populate that order or item or bin or serial or lot for the user so that they don't even have to go select it. Or you could also have it show up in the suggested item info cell so that it's available for reference, but not necessarily locked in. So the focus here is around making the picking process as efficient as possible while also ensuring that high priority orders are picked first. And it also enhances inventory control by making sure that FIFO and FIFO items are picked first. Within the directed picking umbrella, we have this other concept of picking assignments. So this will open up a variety of possibilities. So you could use picking assignments to have pickers automatically assigned to whatever orders they start to pick. That way, other users can't see those particular orders. You could assign users to picking groups and then assign orders to those picking groups ahead of time, so those users will only see the orders for their group. You could also assign orders to users directly ahead of time so that they only see exactly what they need to pick. We're currently planning for manual order assignments only via a new screen on the Inventory Manager console app. But we're also considering ways to automatically assign orders to groups or users ahead of time. So this again plays into picking efficiency, so making sure pickers know exactly what they need to pick and keeping them from stepping on each other's toes. Then next we'll be getting into picking efficiency. So this is going to be specific reporting in the Inventory Manager console application. So in the back end, there will be new logging for when picking starts based on when the user loads the order. There will be updated logging for picking submissions. We'll have a new screen in the Inventory Manager console that provides visibility of the picker efficiency. So this will provide aggregations at the user and sales document level for how many documents, lines, and total quantity they picked in a given time frame. This will include calculations like how many lines and items were picked per hour. And you'll be able to use search options to filter to specific users and set specific date ranges like today, this week, this month, this year, or you could go custom and just set your own dates. You'll also be able to drill all the way down to the granular pick submission data so that you can see exactly what was submitted at what time. So this is intended to provide warehouse manager visibility of their picker's performance and help surface any issues that need resolving in the warehouse. Batch picking will be a whole new mobile app module for picking multiple sales orders at the same time. So pickers can make one trip through the warehouse and pick multiple orders at once. So you can select sales orders to be picked together, see the summed item quantities that need to be picked. Potentially, this is a staging activity, and you could still use the main picking module to apply fulfillments to the individual orders, but some use cases may apply the fulfillments as part of batch picking also. And next we have configurable lookups. So this will involve a new Inventory Manager console screen for configuring how the lookup cells in the mobile app should be constructed. So this is going to be really global. It'll affect all of the lookups in the mobile application, from sales documents and sales lines to purchase orders and purchase lines, bins, serials, and lots. You'll be able to select a transaction type and then a lookup type, and then organize the cells to show the fields that are most helpful for you. So this will include core fields as well as user fields where applicable. And then mobile users would be able to see those specific fields in the lookups. They could sort the lookups by any of those visible fields. So it really makes it easier for pickers to figure out which order to pick first, for receivers to know which PO and line to receive against, for users to find items for transferring. There are lots of ways that this can help tailor the visibility on the mobile app. And then for the rest of the year, it's just further updates to Inventory Manager. So we have some other features that we're organizing to fill out the rest of the year, but we're still in planning phases on those. And for Q1 2025, we have a variety of options, but we really want to understand what matters most to our users. So some potential ideas include expanding our manufacturing support, supporting additional features in our e-commerce integrations, and integrating with new EDI document types. So on that note, we want to know what's most important to you. We have a new and improved SalesPad ideas portal, so you can see what other users have submitted. You can add your own ideas and then vote for your favorites. We review new ideas weekly and add updates for whether we're investigating or we might consider it unfeasible, or maybe we need more information. So we'll comment on those to keep them updated. And we'll also update as those features are being implemented and released. So we're accepting all ideas for this, whether they're for big new integrations or just smaller features that would improve your day-to-day. So please let us know what matters to you. And again, we'll be sending out the slide deck to all attendees so that you have all of the configuration notes and documentation links that I have in the speaker notes. But if you have further questions or would like to see demos of anything, definitely connect with your account executive. But if there are any questions you'd like covered today, let us know in the Q&A window and we'll answer as much as we can now.
Yeah, thank you, Alyssa. Packed a lot into that 40-minute presentation. So we do have a handful of questions. Before jumping into those, I just wanted to make a quick correction on a link I provided earlier. I said /, but just wanted to update to view past webinars or register for our upcoming webinars. That link is www.cavallo.com/events-schedule. So just wanted to clear that up. But let's go ahead and dive into those questions that we have so far. So the first one is, who reviews the submitted ideas and what's the process for whether those are approved or rejected?
Right. So I review all of the ideas that come in through the portal. I do that on a weekly basis. So every Friday I go through and see what's new. I will compare that against maybe we have an existing feature for that, or something that is close and might be something that we could recommend for you to check out. Or maybe we have a pending case in the backlog for attending to that, and then I'll add your notes to whatever we already have. And otherwise, if it's a whole new idea, then I create a case for that, and we go through on our side to review feasibility with the developers. So then we'll go through any architecture and refinement needed, and then that gets put in a backlog of possible features that we have that we could work on at some point in the future.
Awesome. Thanks for answering that. Next question, the public release notes for SalesPad only go to version 5.4.10, but there are later versions that they saw listed in the slides. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So our public release notes cover up to our latest main release. So about once every 2 to 3 months, we come out with what we consider to be a main release, which is a stable release that hasn't had any big, crazy new changes. And we consider it stable enough to be the main one that we would then recommend for any upgrade requests that come in, for example. So you can upgrade to a more recent version than the main release. You just can connect with your account executive or support, or let them know that there's some particular feature that you want to see. If you'd like to see the release notes for those more recent releases, you could connect with our support team and ask through there, or you could ask your account executive. We still compile all of those internally. We just don't publish them publicly until it's an official main release.
Thanks. All right, next question. Was EDI 204 just recently deployed as a new feature for SalesPad, or was this enhanced and had already existed?
204 is relatively new. All of these features we came out with within the last year. So that slide has the exact version number that would have been included in.
Another question regarding versions. What is the latest version currently available?
Oh, good question. Make me break out my notes for a second for that. The latest SalesPad version is 5.4.13, which came out on July 9th. We are actually prepping for the next one, which would probably be released next Tuesday or Wednesday. That's when they usually end up coming out based on our QA cycles.
There's a second part of this question I can answer. Some of the features discussed here for future releases. Everything on that roadmap slide that Alyssa just shown was future releases, and all the content before that would have been something that's on an existing release. Another question, I can take this one too. When will you be sending out this deck? We're going to work with marketing after this is over to be able to forward this to all the attendees. So should be getting that either later this week or early next week at the latest. A couple questions regarding the grid conditional formatting. So part one of a question is, can this be applied to multiple users? And specifically, they want to be able to copy conditional formatting on the sales monitor to other users without affecting their grid layout. Is this possible?
Ooh. The only way to do it currently would be within layout maintenance, which would include like all of the columns and everything that are in the grid, as well as that conditional formatting. So it's kind of all or nothing at this point.
Perfect. So another question is SPS the only way we can utilize EDI? Is it possible to go through a different provider?
Right. So SPS is the only one that we are directly integrated with. Our new intercompany EDI handling would, I suppose, technically be possible to use with another EDI provider, because it's really just outputting the XML, or it's looking at a particular path to grab new inbound XML documents. So I suppose if an EDI provider was able to format the same way that SalesPad is expecting, then you would be able to use those. But we don't have a direct integration with anyone beyond SPS.
Thank you. Question around the HubSpot integration. What is the relationship between the HubSpot company and contact and the GP customer and ship to address code? Do you use the ship to as the HubSpot contact?
Right. So the HubSpot company is one-to-one with SalesPad or GP customers or prospects. And then each of the contacts are one-to-one effectively. So if you have bill tos and ship tos within SalesPad, each of those would be individual contacts on the HubSpot side.
Another question I think you answered. The SalesPad latest version was 5.4.13. And that is not a main release, is essentially the question, right? That's the latest release, but not one of our main releases. Is that correct, Alyssa?
Correct. Yes, that is not a main release yet. It looks like the last main release we did was for 5.4.10. So probably in the next release or two, we'll be looking at a new main release. But it's every 2 to 3 months or so that we'll do that.
All right. And then I think the same question for what the latest version of Inventory Manager release was, if you do have that hand. Sort of put you on the spot.
Let me, yeah. Got easy notes. So let's see. Because we will be coming out with one of those relatively soon as well. Most recent Inventory Manager release was 5.11.1, which came out on June 17th.
Another feedback / question. Loving the link to the primary routing from the BOM in manufacturing. Is there going to be access to entering in manufacturing notes in the future?
Potentially. So I noted that Q1 2025 might be some manufacturing development we're looking at. There's a variety of different manufacturing related topics that we're looking at for that. I don't know that manufacturing notes was one of those yet, but definitely put that in the ideas portal, because then I can take that and add that to the grouping of features that we're looking at for manufacturing. No guarantees it will be done in Q1 2025, just because we're still looking at those various priorities and figuring out what we'd like to focus on next year.
All right. So that's it for our questions that I had queue here. So I want to give a big thank you to our presenter, Alyssa, and to all of you for spending part of your Thursday afternoon with us. We hope to see you again next month on August 15th for a webinar on Automation Agent. Automation is key to remaining efficient and relevant. If you'd like to dive deeper into your organization's specific needs or have any questions about what you heard today, please reach out to your account executive or manager or scan the QR code on this slide for a link to a form to complete with your questions. Lastly, when you exit the webinar today, there'll be a short survey. We'd greatly appreciate your feedback. Thank you for joining us and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.